natural rights are what gave rise to the Bill of Rights. We have a Bill of Rights not just in the American Constitution, but also for our state constitution. And frankly, if every person in every state has not compiled all of their freedoms together, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You have no idea what the hell you're doing. So America has a ton of freedoms, right? All those Bill of Rights, right to speak, peacefully assemble, right to not have soldiers living up in your homes. But Colorado has a bunch of freedoms as well. Article 2 is their Bill of Rights, and it goes on down. So there's, no ex post facto laws, no imprisonment for debt, right to bear arms, right to bear arms taken, property for, what's this right to bear arms about? Let's go ahead and read the right to bear arms. Section 2, Article 13. Section 2, Article 13. This is Colorado's Second Amendment. The right of no person to keep and bear arms in defense of his home, person, and property, or in the aid of the civil power when thereto legally summoned, shall be called into question, but nothing herein contained shall be construed to justify the practice of carrying concealed weapons. So there you go. That's Colorado's Second Amendment. And it says that, basically, the right of no person. I'll just read it casually, but it's legal. Okay, the right of no person to keep and bear arms in defense of his home, person, and property, or in the aid of the civil power when thereto legally summoned, shall be called into question. Shall be called into question. So if there's a police officer and there's somebody that he's chasing, and I'm just out here gardening, I'm just out here, in my little garden, and he's sitting there chasing somebody, and he says, "Hey, you, tackle that man." And I go and I tackle that man, and he still tries to get away, tries to hurt me, and I pull out my revolver, assuming I had a revolver. You can't call that into question. You can't call that into question. I was aiding the civil power. When legally summoned, I was aiding the civil power. And if that person was on my property, thinking that he was going to hurt my person or my home or my property, you can't even question it. You can't even call that into question. What? You had to use a gun to make sure somebody didn't damage your property? Okay, well, you can't even call that into question. You can't even call that. Okay, so I went ahead and compiled all these American freedoms. I've done it once before, but I've came back and I've done it again. I do need some peer review, so if you could click in the link and, give me try to destroy it. Give me all the criticisms of the world. That's how I make this thing better. And actually, I kind of see, okay, well, without further ado, 71 Coloradan-American freedoms. The right to initiative, the right to referendum, the right to recall, the right to a speedy and public and impartial jury trial, the right of every person to have access to the courts, the right to confront the witnesses against you, the right to subpoena witnesses and evidence, the right to due process, the right to have a grand jury indictment for major accusations, victims' rights. There's a bunch of victims' rights. I just said 3 because they're kind of like, but the right to be in a secure waiting room in court, the right to be heard at any court proceeding, the right to receive a free copy of the initial incident report, the right to be treated with fairness, respect, and dignity, the right to be free from intimidation, harassment, or abuse during the criminal justice process, and some other ones there. So victims' rights, the right to bail. In fact, the entire criminal justice system needs to be based upon the victim's rights. The right to bail, the right to remain silent, freedom from double jeopardy, the right to habeas corpus, the right to a lawyer and or the right to defend thyself. Excessive bail and fines and cruel and unusual punishments are banned. Number 19, in suits at common law with a controversy over $20, the right of a trial by jury is protected. The right to serve legal papers. 21, the right to home rule. 22, the freedom of the press. 23, the right to peacefully assemble. 24, the right of contracts is absolute. 25, the right to equal protection of the law, freedom from military rule, civil authority. Civilian authority must always control the military. The military must always be subordinate to civilian authority. Authority. I think I've done that twice. Okay, so states are free to coin. I think that's redundant. I'm gonna have to. Okay, so I'm gonna have to edit. So states are free to coin gold and silver. 28, freedom from unreasonable search and seizures. 29, we the people have the right to revolution when it's necessary to our safety and happiness and not repugnant to the Constitution of the United States. That's Article 2, Section 2. The right to vote, the right to life, the right to petition, the freedom from state religion, the freedom from state religion, aka the Establishment Clause, freedom from title nobility, the right to know how public monies are spent, the freedom from war, the freedom from slavery, the freedom from standing armies in all 50 states, the freedom from any 50 states invading another, the right to free and open elections, the right to have a maximum 2-term presidency, the right to security, the right to property, the freedom to be freedom from debtor's prison, no ex post facto laws, no state tariffs on exports. During times of peace, the right to keep soldiers from living up in your homes. Freedom from eternal immunities and corporations. Colorado's General Assembly is forbidden to declare felonies or treason. Only the treasonous get punished and not their families. The death of the suicided are treated as a natural death. Landowners have a right to vote on any proposed annexations. The freedom to religion. The right to enjoy and defend liberty. The right to happiness. Women and men have equal rights. The right to have excess taxes returned back to the taxpayers, i.e. the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, TABOR. It's Article 10, Section 20. The liberty of conscience, ban on emoluments, the freedom from eminent domain, the freedom from confederates, the right to drink alcohol, the right to a democratic republic, the freedom of state-to-state sea commerce, freedom from the Secretary of the Treasury of abuse, the right to be an American citizen, the freedom from bills of attainder, i.e. convictions without trial. The military must always be subordinate to civil authority. Okay, so 69. 70, the right to guns. And 71, the right to speak. Actually, it's going to be 70. The 70 rights and freedoms. I'm going to have to combine 69 with the other one, but let's just read this last comment here. We have a right to speak. And I don't know if you noticed, I put the right to speak and the right to bear arms at the very end of the list. So everybody wants to bitch about the freedom of speech, bitch about the right to bear arms. What people don't want to do is talk about the other goddamn 68 fucking freedoms that we have. My God, if we could get into an argument over the right to have free and open elections, freedom from debtor's prison. What about no ex post facto laws? Do you even know what an ex post facto law is? I know you do, Colorado. I know you do, Colorado. That's what I love about you. The growth of constitutional liberty has abolished arbitrary power of courts to inflict punishment and penalties upon persons commenting upon courts and judges or upon the character thereof through contempt proceedings, and the right to make any such comment upon courts and judges in any respect and as fully and freely as may be desired is a right of every person and is a right reserved to the people without any express reservation as provided in this section. People ex Real Attorney General v. News Times Publishing Company, 1906. Appeal dismissed. Appeal dismissed. 1907.